Alright, so here we are talking about this Firefly. Everybody has talked about this guitar, this 335. However, I was lucky enough to get the version that is a cherry burst with a veneer, a nice wood veneer on top, and the finish is beautiful. Now, I have to tell you that I have actually reviewed the Grove 335. I have two, and I have reviewed them. I reviewed the Best Choice Amazon guitar. I have reviewed also my Gretsch and a bunch of other semi-hollow, and the Harley Benton semi-hollow guitar that they sell. And I've done all of these semi-hollow and hollow guitars because it turns out that this is the most beautiful, sophisticated tone that matches, in my opinion, my personality and my music. Although it doesn't have the trem, it doesn't have the funky positions of a Strat, which I love a Strat for all of these features. Okay, more or less there. I love a Strat for all of those features, but this gives me that warm tone that I like, and it also gives me the freedom to play around here, so I could do my segunda, and I could do all of the thumb picking techniques because I play bachata and I use a thumb pick. So highlights about this guy. What's the good? Well, first of all, it's just a beautiful instrument. It's well made. It has good acoustic resonance, although all of the Grove guitars have better resonance, but this one does have good resonance too. The neck is on the thin side for a 335 style guitar, but it's still great. It's good, within range. Tuners are good, they're decent. Pickups, something interesting here. They're not very warm. They're kind of bright, but in a good way. They have a nice sparkle, and you can crank them. So they're not the most dynamic pickups, but usually all of my Firefly guitars, they come with decent to good pickups, and these are no exception. I wouldn't use this for jazz, so I'm left wondering or wanting there, though. Might want to change the pickups for that reason. I don't know. Fret job is flawless. It's very good. Again, like most guitars that I actually reviewed today. They're jumbo frets, so they feel really good for me. I can really dig in. Hardware is good. This feels an upgrade from the Best Choice guitar, for sure. It's worth the extra money. I got it from GuitarGarden.com, the distributors, and this guy just flew off like a Firefly. Is this guitar good? Well, I would say yes. Now, with all cheap guitars that you buy, you're always going to have some kind of compromise. So when I initially did the setup of this guitar, I realized that I couldn't bring it down as low as I wanted to, and it was essentially because the nut, which is a bone nut, was not cut very well. So these two strings were cut too deeply, and I had to refinish this part. Turns out that I moved the strings a half of a millimeter down, so I'm gonna have to redo this, but it turns out that it could be fixed. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube on how to fix a nut when you dig in too far. So the nut was not perfect, but it was good. It was decent. It had a good setup, but I'm very picky with my setup, and I redid the setup, and it turns out that was not allowing the guitar to have the action that I needed, so I had to go into it. That being said, this guitar is definitely worth $180. This is a little bit more expensive compared to the other ones. It is worth the upgrade, I believe, for the beautiful veneer and the beautiful red cherry burst. Go for it if you have the opportunity and the chance to buy it. Again, these guitars are like gold. They're hard to get, and they're very well done. And like, we live in an age and era that you can have many guitars, as many as you can manage to keep. Because believe me, having many guitars is not easy. You need to keep them in shape. You cannot just have a guitar and just toss them around. I mean, you could, but what's the point of that? Might as well not buy it. Because these guitars, it's worth keeping so many of them because they're so cheap and they're so very well made. and they don't feel like expensive guitars, but um, they feel like mid-range instruments. And the downside sometimes is the pickups or some finishing details that, or sometimes the setups, things that you could do on your own. So amazing times to be a guitar player and to do this project where I'm looking for my bachata tone. So definitely worth buying these Firefly guitars. Highlight for me. That being said, I think I prefer the growth. Prefer the growth over the Firefly, but by a tiny, tiny, tiny difference. Given that both have different finishes and slightly different setup and arrangements on the controllers, I would definitely grab a Firefly whenever I have a chance if I like the finish. So thank you. Good luck.